Hey, this is Dan. Welcome to the importance of sleep presentation. So I'm just going to get straight into it. So the importance of sleep. So sleep is linked to optimal health. Having a poor sleep pattern can be linked to heart disease, type 2 diabetes, depression, and is one of the main contributors and causing factors of obesity. So this can come down to a number of different things. So since it's been noted that since the 70s that we sleep roughly around about an hour less per night. So we just in general we're sleeping less. This comes down to about 4 or 5 different things. Generally speaking, our lifestyles are very, very different. So we're more kind of hectic in life. Our work is very sort of sedentary in nature. We don't tend to do as much physical activity, so we sort of not as worn out and not as active. Our social lives are very, very different. They kind of revolve more around alcohol, our binge drinking culture, especially in the UK. Also, the kind of activities that we do are very, very different to what they used to be in the 70s. And probably one of the main things, which is the main kind of point we're going to address today, is artificial light and electronics. So as you can see here, I've shown you sort of 3 different kind of devices that we kind of spend our lives glued to at this point. So we've got tablets, televisions and phones. So what generally happens is people get in from work or whatever they're doing, they'll sit and look at their tablet, check on some stuff, maybe check their email. They've been on a computer all day. They come in and check their email. They check Facebook. They put the TV on, watch a bit of TV, watch some terrible soaps if they're females. Guys will just watch whatever's on, maybe a film or 2. And then they'll go to bed and they'll flick their phone on, again, check through Facebook for half an hour. I'm really guilty of this, so I do it all the time. It's pretty rubbish. But the main focus is artificial light devices. So why is this a problem? Okay, so most of these devices emit blue light. Blue light can be found in many different things, such as fluorescent lighting, even just regular lighting. You get blue light from the sun, and you know it's actually quite important. It's not quite completely clear from the research yet because it's pretty new, but sleep studies are being done and have been done over very long time, including things like the Wisconsin Sleep Study, which is fascinating. I really enjoy that. But it's not completely clear from research the kind of effects of the blue light. Now, they've got a good idea, but it's not completely conclusive at this point. So the studies show that circadian rhythms are affected. So your circadian rhythm is your biological internal clock. We'll go into that in a little while. By blue light. So blue light really damages your biological clock. Nighttime blue light is compared to the daytime blue light. So daytime blue light is actually really, really important. However, nighttime blue light is not so good. It basically suppresses melatonin production, which tells your body that you need to sleep. So there's a Harvard study that sort of indicated the connection between diabetes and possibly obesity, and it just basically showed that the timing of circadian rhythms were shifted, and it threw them into a pre-diabetic state on these 10 people in a schedule. It basically affected the levels of leptin and made them struggle with their appetite, basically. So it's quite fascinating how much the blue light can affect your body. So here's the circadian rhythm and how it's explained and how it looks in the body. Okay, so as you can see, in the morning, sort of at 4:30, your lowest body temperature, so that's your body temperature clock. You get sharpest rise of blood pressure at 6:45. Melatonin secretion, so that's your sleepy hormone that gets released. So that stops at about 7:30, and this is actually generally when cortisol, which is a stress hormone, actually takes over, and that helps wake you up. So again, bowel movement likely for most people who eat generally quite well, testosterone secretion, high alertness mid-morning, and obviously less coffee required at that time. Best coordination, fastest reaction time, and around about here is generally when I prefer to train. That's my kind of favourite training time at the best. So I'm always best around then. So it says 5 o'clock. So that's probably about right. So I actually prefer cycling at this time, which is indicative of what we're saying here. Highest blood pressure at 6:30, highest body temperature at 7 o'clock, and then melatonin secretion starts here. So that's your circadian rhythms. That's not all of your circadian rhythms. That's just some of them. There are other things, so some hormonal secretions which aren't really explained, and that can be affected by food cycles and things like that. So what are the positives behind blue light? So during the day, it can really help mood, alertness, and performance. So blue light therapy has been shown to improve symptoms of depression to quite a significant degree. Now, this kind of sinks in quite well with sort of vitamin D exposure, and the NHS in the UK are now discussing whether or not vitamin D is now, as a supplement, is actually a necessity. Now, it's quite hard for us to synthesize too much vitamin D in the UK because of our distance from the equator, so our distance from the sun and the level of sun exposure that we get. So in terms of, we're talking about something slightly different here, but it kind of links in quite well. So something to consider. So alertness is actually quite important as well. So blue light. So if you ever feel like in the winter that you might be a little bit like a bit groggy and sluggish, that could be to do with the blue light and exposure and stuff. So if you're sat in an office, in a darkened office and stuff, it can have a massive effect on that. And performance as well. So sort of performance can be suppressed if you don't have blue light exposure. So performance in the gym, at home, whatever else, if at work and stuff, this can be all affected by the level of blue light you're exposed to. So the blue light negatives, especially at night. So melatonin suppression, which signals to our body and brains that it's time to get tired and go to sleep. So basically what's happening when you are looking at your phones and screens late at night, so it could be from about 8 o'clock onwards, 9 o'clock onwards, it's actually suppressing your body's diurnal signaling to tell it to release melatonin. And so this means that you don't get as tired, so you stay awake and you're really, really alert. So whenever I play FIFA on the Xbox at 9 o'clock at night, not only do I want to throw my controller at the screen if I do something stupid on it, but it's also not doing me any good because it's what's keeping you alert looking at that blue screen. Our bodies don't get the proper signal that it's time to go to sleep, and basically it reduces the quality and quantity, so it can make you quite restless for the most part, but the quality of sleep is very important. So we've heard about the 8 hours a night. There was a study called the Wisconsin Sleep Study, I mentioned it earlier, and basically it kind of studied two groups of people, and those people had over 7.5 hours sleep and under 7.5 hours sleep, and basically it showed that glucose metabolism was impaired over time. So that basically means people were gaining body fat quite rapidly if they slept under sort of 7 hours on a regular basis. So it actually affected their body's ability to metabolize carbohydrate. So what that means is you won't use carbohydrate as an energy source, you'll just use it as storage, so it will get stored as body fat, which is negative. It also showed that your body never adapts either. So your body generally adapts to these kind of long-term stimulus. So it's pretty adaptive. But in this instance, it showed that the body does not adapt, and actually carbohydrate metabolism is just forever impaired. So it's pretty important that we get control of the quality and quantity of our sleep. So the negative effects of poor sleep gives us a bit of a bigger picture here, and this is for men and women. So it gives poor appetite control. So there's a number of different mechanisms behind that. So poor sleep quality down regulates leptin and up regulates ghrelin, amongst the other sort of appetite hormones, which is not good. So obviously over time, and again with that carbohydrate metabolism, so if you couple them together, that's going to lead to long-term damage effectively. So it's going to be hard to reverse those effects. So poor appetite control, really important, especially if you want to maintain a lean and happy physique for the rest of your life. Higher elevated levels of stress hormone cortisol. So again, poor quality sleep basically increases stress on the body, and again that upregulates the hormones we don't want to have upregulated chronically, so that they will actually again increase appetite. So that comes back round to that again. Poor energy levels, so just general energy levels overall, so performance in the gym, performance elsewhere, how you're just generally kind of feeling about things, mood, etc. It can actually increase symptoms of depression. And also really important, I think, especially as we move through life, lower libido. So in your 20s, obviously, you probably didn't really care about this stuff. Sex drive would be quite high, but as you move into your 30s and onwards, I think it's quite important. And you'll see a lot of people. I get a lot of people in the past who say that they're, they just don't even think about sex, and it's quite an important part of life. Well, might be uncomfortable for some to discuss, but I think it's a very, very important part of life, and it needs to be addressed. And sleep has a humongous effect on that. So how do we combat this? So sleep hygiene. Okay, so sleep hygiene is really important. So a little bit about females here. So sleep hygiene, especially certain times of the month, you need to start looking at how hot you are at night. If you are hot when your body temperature is upregulated from your hormone secretions, then it might be time to start looking at getting a desk fan and maybe a lighter duvet for those times. A lot of women do like to be warm at night, thick duvets. However, it can actually be detrimental for good quality sleep. Sleep hygiene. So the bedroom should be used for two things and two things only: sleep and sex, and that is it. I would suggest potentially reading would be fine, but not on a phone in any form. So no TVs in the bedroom. This is extremely hypocritical of me because every now and again I do watch a film in bed, but then I get a terrible sleep afterwards. So it's absolutely awful. So, getting rid of any kind of electronic devices from the bedroom would be beneficial. Hard to accept, but it is a scientific fact that these cause a problem. So having a cool bedroom that's not too hot, especially certain times of the month for females, generally speaking, most males that I know, a bit of a generalization, they tend to find that a cooler bedroom promotes better sleep quality. Making sure that you switch off any electronics about an hour or two before bed is going to be it says 2 to 3 hours here, but practically speaking, not many people are going to do that. But switching them off sort of 1 to 2 hours is going to have a huge effect on your sleep quality. Switching off laptop, switching off Facebook, switching off TV, doing some reading is going to make a big difference. Dimming lights, making sure that you're using non-energy saving bulbs, which is completely counterintuitive to the environment, but switching out your lights for sort of regular lights or very dim lights. If you've got a dimmer switch on these things, they can make a huge difference, because a very low, just an 8 Lumex lamp could have a massive effect on melatonin production. So, and that's just like a regular lamp. So no bright screens in the bedroom, especially TVs, no films. Things like blue blocking glasses. So this is something I actually bought. So I've just renewed my glasses prescription as I speak about this presentation, and they asked me whether I wanted some blue coating on my glasses. Now, I look like a complete douche wearing them because obviously you can see the reflective, but I can't tell you the difference it's made to my sleep quality. It really has made a difference. I can get off straight away now, and this is from blue blocking glasses. And you can pick some up off of Amazon, and they're about 50 quid. So they're not like prescription ones. If you've got prescription glasses, it might be worth going in and speaking to your opticians to see whether or not you can look at that. Exposing yourselves to a lot of bright light during the day, which will boost your ability to sleep at night. So I actually have a light box which gives a massive amount of blue light in the day, and it helps regulate my kind of circadian rhythms. And it sounds all a little bit hippie, this stuff, but there is, it's scientifically backed. There is no pseudoscience behind this. It is a true fact, and there's no getting away from it. These things work. The reason why I use them is because they work, and they will benefit me long term. And I would suggest most people do the same thing. So just addressing a few of these issues can make a massive difference. So in terms of physique, if that's what you're here for, then it makes a huge difference. But in terms of overall health and longevity and making sure that you just generally feel better, these things have a humongous effect. So Harvard Medical School did this, which is a really good article. It gives a lot of backing scientifically behind it. So if you wanted to have a little read, feel free. But that's the end of the sleep presentation. Any questions, please let me know. Thanks.